What's up guys, it's Chris Majestic. So up until last year, if you wanted a 4K projector, you'd have to spend several $1,000s. Well, today we're gonna be looking at BenQ's new budget 4K projector, so stay tuned. So it looks like we're finally getting to the point where 4K projectors are becoming more affordable. So last year, Optoma released a $2,000 UHD60, and now BenQ is releasing the HT2550, which is priced at $1,500. Now I know the YouTube comment warriors are gonna get on me for calling this a budget projector, but believe it or not, at $1,500, this is actually a really low price. Now taking this thing out of the box made me feel like I was pulling out a high quality product. At just over 9 pounds, it's much heavier than the average projector, and it has a nice look to it. The gray and black theme with gold accents and shiny 4K badge makes it look like a high-end projector. The menu buttons are located on top of it along with the focus ring and zoom dial. On the back you're going to find your typical ports including audio jacks, computer input, 2 HDMI ports, USB ports, and a 12-volt trigger. It also has adjustable feet on the bottom to help you with installation if you're putting it on a table. Now I have to say, as far as features go, I wasn't expecting too much considering its price much lower than the competition, but the features that stand out are 3D for those of you who can't live without it, HDR compatibility, and good color accuracy. Now this projector does have several good features, and I always tell people not to get caught up in the numbers and the manufacturer claims since they really don't mean much. It's really going to be about their performance. Now as far as installation features go, it doesn't offer a whole lot. It doesn't have things like lens shift or horizontal keystone correction, but it does have an automatic vertical keystone. So if the projector is tilted, it'll automatically straighten out the image for you, which is a cool feature. So this projector needs to be about 10.5 feet away from the screen in order to produce the 100-inch image, and it has a 110-inch projection offset. So this means the projector will need to be placed slightly above the screen if it's mounted on the ceiling, or slightly lower than the screen if it's mounted on a table, so definitely keep that in mind. Okay, so how is the image quality? Well, after letting it warm up for about a minute or so, I did a crazy amount of testing on this thing. I played some 4K HDR Blu-rays and some 3D and 4K videos on my NVIDIA Shield, and the first thing that stood out to me was how natural the image looked. BenQ projectors do a really good job of producing bright and natural colors, especially after being calibrated. So even though I didn't plan on it, I actually spent hours and hours comparing this to my Optoma UHD60 in my home theater, and for it to be priced a few $100s cheaper than the Optoma, I think it does pretty well. So the main difference between these projectors is the chip that's used for 4K. So both the Optoma and the BenQ both use pixel shifting technology to produce an image that meets 4K standards. However, even though the chip in the BenQ is newer, the Optoma's chip is larger, and the end result is a slightly sharper image on the Optoma. So here's some photos with both projectors on my 135-inch screen for you to see the difference. Now, if you're not watching this video in 4K, it will be hard for you to see the difference, but I would say it's a little bit sharper than the Epson 5040UB, but not quite as sharp as the Optoma UHD60. Now this projector does have a feature that they call Pixel Enhancer 4K, which adds sharpening to make the image look more clear, and it works pretty well, but turning it all the way up results in an over-sharpened image. So I found that it works best when setting it somewhere between 7 and 8. Now the place where the BenQ shines is the brightness and color accuracy. Even though the Optoma is 3000 lumens and the BenQ is only 2200, it produces almost the same amount of brightness and colors. In vivid mode, it's going to be super bright at the expense of color accuracy, and cinema mode has the most accurate image but at the expense of brightness. Now as far as HDR performance goes, it's not going to blow you away like an OLED TV or anything, but it is noticeable. My only issue with it is that it does have a tendency to make everything gray and less color vibrant, so it does work best if you're projecting it on a smaller screen since it'll be brighter. Now it does have a feature to let you adjust HDR brightness, which does help with this, but I do recommend a screen smaller than 120 inches if you want the best HDR. So this is one of the few, if not only 4K projector that has 3D, and it does a great job at it. The image was sharpened and added nice depth with objects occasionally popping out of the screen. It's definitely nice to see 3D on a projector this sharp since it's the type of thing that looks even better on a larger screen, even though the technology is slowly dying. Now the gaming performance of this projector is awesome. I didn't see any rainbow effect, fast moving scenes were fine, and I didn't have any issues with input lag. Just keep in mind that only one of the ports supports HDMI 2.0, so you'll definitely want to use that one for your 4K content. Now as far as fan noise goes, it wasn't too bad. You can definitely hear it if you're listening for it, but it wasn't too distracting as long as you're not sitting right next to it. And speaking of sounds, the 5-watt speaker on this thing is impressive. You wouldn't think that 5 watts is a lot of power, but it definitely gets loud enough to watch TV in a fairly large room. Now, it's not gonna sound like a movie theater, but it does work well if you need to use it temporarily, so I still would recommend something like a home theater system or a soundbar.
Lucky ring on. I feel so much safer. Rip it, we're coming in hot.
So even though this is a great projector for the money, there are some things I'm not a big fan of. The first issue is that it has what I can best describe as a light border. Now this is kind of difficult to explain, so I'll let the pictures do the talking, but basically it displays a faint border of light around the actual image. Now it's easier to see when the screen is smaller, but it's definitely a concern since it's so noticeable. Another issue is light leakage from the lens if the projector is ceiling mounted. So this is going to display a small amount of light on the ceiling, which can be distracting for some people. So even though this projector does have some small issues, its price is what makes it so attractive, so I would still recommend it if you're looking to spend less than $1,500. And the fact that it has great color accuracy and 3D, I think it's definitely a great contender to other budget 4K projectors out there. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you found it helpful, as always, go ahead and mash that like button for me. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Go ahead and leave your comments on the comment section. I'll respond to your comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.